Let's jump into this season real quick. Let me run through their games, and I'm going to let you dive into their roster. All right, so Mizzou opens up with Central Arkansas. I guess that's what the C stands for.
Yes.
Then they got to play Kansas. Then Louisiana. Not mistaking that with LSU. It's not Louisiana State, just Louisiana.
Louisiana Lafayette, yep.
Then South Kakalaki. Then UMass at home. Alabama at home. Then they got to play Auburn on the Plains. Then they have to go to Nashville and take on Vandy. Then they come back home and take on A&M, Mississippi State. Then they go back on the road to finish the last two games out with Oklahoma and Arkansas. We'll get into the schedule more closely in a minute, but I don't think it's an easy schedule for the Evil One.
No, and it's deceptive as well. You look at it and you think, well, this might play out well for them. Their first 6 games are at home. 6. Then they've got 6 left on the schedule. Only 4 of them are on the road. They play 8 home games this year, the home team. We'll get into that more later. But, yeah, just at first glance, you're like, wow, what an easy road that they're going to have. Not so fast, my friend. Let's start talking about the roster. And let's be real about how the draft and the portal affected you this year. First off, Brady Cook out at quarterback. He is now trying to make his way in the NFL. You were looking to have a battle, if you will, between Drew Pine, who left in the portal, and Bo Pribula, who arrived from Penn State in the portal. Now it's Bo's job. Conceivably, it's completely Bo's job. He's a graduate player this year, very sparingly with Penn State last season, threw for 275 yards, 5 touchdowns. So he's effective in the pocket. He's an effective runner. He picked up 256 yards on the ground and 4 touchdowns running the football last year. So he's not an incapable player. Missouri's offense is going to be different than Penn State's offense, and he's a grad guy. So he's entrenched in what he knew. Is he going to be able to catch on to the nuances of an Eli Drinkwitz offense and be effective in this program? We'll see, right? They obviously believe heavily in him and are very excited about what he's going to bring to the table. Sam Horn is going to be backing him up. And Matt Zollers, I think, is the one to watch. True freshman, 4-star quarterback. I think that he's going to be the guy that you might see getting some playing time depending on injuries, depending on effectiveness. If Bo starts throwing too many picks or people get hurt, you might see Zollers in there. But if Eli can keep him around, I think that he's your guy for the future. The running back room, golly, you guys got hit here too. Nate Noel and Marcus Carroll, both gone. Okay, so you've got Ahmad Hardy, who's transferring in from Louisiana Monroe, okay, for all of your Duck Commander fans out there. But let's just talk about that for a second. Very effective at ULM, but ULM is in the Sun Belt, folks. That's not the Southeastern Conference. You ain't running against SEC defenses in the Sun Belt. You're running against Sun Belt defense. And so it's not that big of a deal to see this guy coming in with 1,300 yards last season and 13 touchdowns. Like, he had a great year in the Sun Belt Conference, no doubt about it, but that's not a direct translation into how effective he'll be in the SEC. I think he'll be good. I think, and we'll get to it, he's got a good line to run behind. I just don't know that it's going to translate into another 1,000-plus yard season. Marquise Davis, a true freshman, no idea what he's going to be like. 6 foot, 213 pounds, 4-star incoming freshman. So we'll see the effectiveness there. I like Ahmad Hardy as your starter. I just don't know enough about the guys behind him to say what kind of depth that you've got in the running back room. Wide receiver, this is where we talked about it with Luther Burden being gone. Theo Weiss Jr. is also gone. Those two accumulated 1,500 yards between them last season, 121 catches and 10 touchdowns between the two of those. They're both gone, right? So you're starting over essentially at your wide receiver position, and this has been a big deal for Eli and his offense is the solid effort, the solid players that they had at the wide receiver room. I just don't see that yet, Missouri fan. Kevin Coleman comes in from Mississippi State. He had a good year. Now, again, that's SEC experience, right? And Mississippi State was good at one thing. That was slinging the ball around the field trying to score points. He picked up 932 yards and 6 touchdowns last season for the Bulldogs. You've got Marquise Johnson, played in 11 games, 352 yards and a touchdown. Josh Manning played in 13 games, caught 13 passes, 192 yards and a touchdown. Another guy coming in as a grad transfer, Xavier Lloyd. He comes in, I believe, from Louisville. Or it could be Ball State, excuse me. Anyway, he picked up almost 1,000 yards last year, 909 yards through the air, 6 touchdowns for that guy. So you've got some guys in this wide receiver room that know how to catch the football, but how effective are they going to be as a new unit without any returning player that was already a standout? Luther Burden III was already a standout last year. Theo Weiss Jr. was already a standout going into the 2024 season. I don't see that with this room right now. The tight end room,
all with a new quarterback too.
All with a new quarterback. The tight end room, you're not grading out that strong, big guy. You got a B- for your starter and a C+ at your depth. Brett Norfleet, known as a receiver. Vince Brown, the second, transfers in from Colorado State, known as a receiver. Both of those are upperclassmen. Vince Brown, the second, is a redshirt senior. Brett Norfleet is a junior. At least Norfleet was a 4-star. Okay, Brown, the second, goose egg. No stars coming out of high school. And let me tell you this much. He went to JUCO, then he transferred into Colorado State. Now he's coming into Missouri. I don't hold out a whole lot of hope for this guy, but we'll see. Missouri, not known really for overutilizing the tight end position, right? So if it gives Prebula another option to dump the ball off to, great. You've got some receiving tight ends there, but we'll see. The offensive line is my top grading position on the offense, which is a good thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, everybody wants the flashy quarterback, the flashy running back, the wide receiver that can just kick it downfield and nobody can catch him. But all of that starts with these 5 guys up front. You've got 2 guys that have transferred in your right guard and your right tackle, Keegan Trost at right tackle and Dominic Judas. I don't know if I'm saying that right, Dominic. I apologize if I said it wrong. He's coming in from Michigan. Keegan Trost is coming in from Wake Forest. Both of these guys, solid players, 6'4", 312 pounds, and 6'4", 316 pounds. So some serious meat on that side of the line. Otherwise, at left tackle, left guard, and center, you've got the cohesive unit returning from last season. And the depth behind these guys is solid. Your O-line at Missouri is going to provide opportunities for your quarterback to have time to throw it and your running backs to have holes to run through. Defense, overall, you're looking pretty good. You've got, we talk about transfers. Let's dive into the defensive line. And okay, well, A&M lost this guy to Georgia, but nobody cares. He wasn't any good. Well, tell that to Missouri, who went out and got Damon Wilson from Georgia at defensive end. 5-star out of high school, junior, not a whole lot of opportunity. And my guess is that's why he left Georgia, is he just wasn't seeing enough playing time there. But hey, there's a lot of depth at Georgia. So let's all understand that. I think right now he's going to be 3rd on the depth chart at defensive end. But one thing that we've seen in the SEC is not only with the running backs, but on the defensive line, constant rotation. So just because you might be the 3rd option at defensive end or edge rush doesn't mean that you're not getting as many snaps as the starter at that same position. Still an obvious chance to shine for Wilson coming in. Zion Young is listed as number 1 at the defensive end position. Had 17 tackles, 3 sacks last season. Going down, Nate Johnson is your next man up at defensive end, 23 tackles, 4 sacks last season. Chris McKellen at defensive tackle, 25 tackles and 3 sacks last season. Nate Johnson, by the way, another transfer. He comes in from Appalachian State. Braylon Henderson, a grad player coming in from Ohio. So some movement there at the defensive line position. Their starters grade out at a B+. The depth at this position, an A+. 4 stars. Running down the line, a 5-star former player, and Damon Wilson. A lot of good, solid experience at that position. The linebackers, mediocre, my friend. Your starters grade out at a B, your depth at a B minus. Josiah Trotter, probably your biggest name coming in from Wake Forest this year. He had 66 tackles last year, 1 sack and 1 interception. And then you've got some good commitments in both Dante McClellan, a true freshman 4-star, and then Jason King, a true freshman 3-star, but not a whole lot of impressive depth at the linebacker spot. Probably some more movements after this season in the transfer portal. Defensive back is looking pretty solid, but I'm going to tell you from my position, it could be temporary because it's all veteran. Now, that's a great thing to have. It's a good problem to have, but when Jalen Cantillon and Dalen Carnell are both grad players, Jalen transferring in from UNLV after spending some time at Texas, 25 tackles last year, 2 sacks and 5 picks. So pretty impressive number for a defensive back. He's playing safety. Dalen Carnell is listed at the other safety position, 19 tackles last year, 0 interceptions, 0 sacks. Look for him to hopefully step up his game. Stephen Hall at the cornerback position, transferring in from Washington State. He had 13 tackles last year and 1 pick. And then Dre Norwood pulling up on the other side. Both those guys are redshirt seniors. So you've got grad, redshirt senior, Pride junior, a true senior behind them. It's just a lot of experience, but it's a lot of experience in the depth of this room. And then when you get down toward the bottom of this, you've got a CJ Bass III and Mark Manfred III coming in as true freshmen, likely going to sit this year. Just because of all the depth that Missouri has in the defensive back room, your true freshmen are likely to sit and gain some practice experience and learn from these vets so that hopefully that depth grade can transfer into your starter grade next season. Don't care about kickers and punters, my friends. That's not what this show is about. We like talking about the guys that put up the big numbers on the scoreboard. So that rounds out what we're looking at in terms of the roster for this season for the Missouri Tigers.
Not that impressive as far as an SEC roster, So it's going to be really interesting on how this season is going to play out for the Missouri Tigers. So with that being said, let's dive into their games, right? So like I said, they open up with Central Arkansas. That's a W. We'll give them that. The next game, they host Kansas. Because we're an SEC show, I don't know Kansas's depth chart. We haven't dived into that. However, Kansas has been coming up lately. So, man, I'm still going to give the edge to Mizzou on that, but it could be a good game.
It could be a good game. Kansas has been tricky over the past couple of years. They are typically a second half of the season team. So I think Missouri's got that going for them in this matchup. I'm like you. SEC, as much as I don't like Drinkwitz, which translates into I wish Missouri did better, I'm going to give them the edge in this game. This is the second game of the season, so I'm going to say that they pick up the W against Kansas.
You just better hope that because one of the things that has made Kansas good over the last couple of years is they've had some pretty good quarterbacks. Now, I don't know what the quarterback situation looks like this year. I don't know if they've got a guy returning or not. But if they do, and Mizzou has not worked out their quarterback room yet and got it really solid, that game could be fun to watch.
Yeah, for sure.
Next, they take on Louisiana. I'll give them a W on that one as well. Then they host South Carolina. I think that's their first L.
I agree. They're coming into this game at 3-0. As we mentioned before, they start off their first half of the season at home. So if there's any edge in my mind that they have in the game against the Gamecocks, it's the fact that they are in Columbia, Missouri, and not Columbia, South Carolina. However, we just went through that depth chart, and it is not an overwhelmingly impressive one. It's not bad. It's not bottom of the barrel, but I don't think it's the kind of roster that takes on and beats Lenora Sellers and the South Carolina Gamecocks this year. This game is always played close. It's As much as I hate to admit it, it's a rivalry of sorts. But I think South Carolina comes out on top in this one and gives them their first loss.
I think so too. Then they host UMass. I would say that's a W. So now they're 4-1. Then they host the Crimson Tide. Yeah, I don't even think that. I don't even think they shouldn't even show up to their own stadium in that game. After going over their depth chart, I don't think it's pretty at all. Then they go on the road, and here's where things get interesting. They go on the road to the Plains and take on the second team from the state of Alabama, which is Auburn. And I'm going to tell you, because we haven't gone over Auburn's depth chart this year, my gut tells me Auburn's going to be a better team than they were last year. Hugh Freeze is going to put together a better program football team this year than last year. I think this is a very hard game for Mizzou, and I think it delivers them their third loss.
I completely agree, and there are several factors that play into this. As you mentioned, we've not done a forecast show for Auburn, haven't looked deeply at their roster, but Hugh Freeze is a good coach. Mm-hmm. Right now, you've got a lot of teams, a lot of commentators like ourselves that are kind of looking past Auburn a little bit, and I don't know what they're going to be. Translates to, I don't know that they'll be that much. But let's look at something else here. We've talked about it a couple times. Missouri's first 6 games are at home. Your first game away from home is not a friendly, anybody can come here environment. It is on the Plains. It is against Auburn. You're halfway through the season, so Auburn at this point knows who Auburn is. That's going to be a tough matchup. I definitely think that the Tigers from Auburn win this ball game.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the confused Tigers for sure.
There you go.
And look, just really quick, because I need to wrap this thing up, but we need to remember the quarterback situation in Mizzou is unknown. Quarterback situation in Auburn is known. They got Arnold from Oklahoma, and so I would have to give them the all right, then they go to Vandy. Then they go to Nashville and take on Vandy. And I'm going to tell you, I don't know who's going to win that game. I think it could go any way. If Pavia is playing well, Pavia can beat that team. Bert, I don't know.
I don't disagree with you. I think a lot of this game rests on how badly Auburn beats them the week prior. If it's a close game, I think that they can rebound. I don't think Vanderbilt of 25 is going to be the Vanderbilt from 24. I just don't. I think they're going to find their struggles. Everybody knows what Anchor Down is about. So I have Missouri with a win in this game, but it could be pretty close, and I'm with you. It could teeter on a loss, but I'm going to give them the win.
Yeah, I'll give them the W, but there's an asterisk next to that one because I don't know.
Yeah.
Or maybe a question mark. Maybe that's better. Then you come back home and take on the Screaming Aggies, and sorry, guys, that's a loss.
Yeah, Manny, your boys get a win here. The Aggies take down Missouri.
Oh, for sure. Then you host Mississippi State. I'll give you a W on that one.
I agree. I think Mississippi State is still rebuilding. I think it's going to be an uphill climb for those guys, and they're not ready yet.
So as it stands right now, how many losses do we have? We have them with South Carolina, Alabama, and Auburn. So at this point,
and A&M.
And A&M. So they're a 4-loss team.
4-loss team.
Going into the last 2 games. So they're 6-4 going into the last 2 weeks. So next they have to go on the road to Norman, Oklahoma, and take on the Boomer Sooners. And sorry, guys, that's a loss.
This is my question. Well, actually, these last 2 games are a question mark for me, because I could go one of 3 ways. I could go 0-2, I can go 2-0, and I can go 1-1 split. And it's because of who they're playing. It's because of how late in the year we are. We've talked about Oklahoma. We've talked about Brent Venables calling the defensive plays and how head coaches, playing coordinators is never worked out very well. So this could go either way with Oklahoma. I'm going to give Oklahoma the win in this one right now, but a lot will remain to be seen.
Yeah. And then the last game, they take on the Fighting Pittmans, the Arkansas Razorbacks. And because and not just because I like Sam Pittman and I'm pulling for the Razorbacks this season, but also I think the quarterback in Arkansas could be the difference. I do think he's going to have a pretty decent year this year. I'm going to give Arkansas the win. So I have the Missouri Tigers going 6-6.
That's where I'm at too. I believe that Sam Pittman, again, this is at the end of the season. Whatever struggles they may or may not have had have played out by this point in November. And I think the Pittmans take this. I think that both of these two games, again, Oklahoma and Arkansas, could play out a lot of different ways. I think that they will be close, but I think Arkansas and the Razorbacks take this one at home. What this does is it brings us to our chicken scratch moment of the episode. Chicken scratch moment is brought to you by OTC Kennels on Facebook and Instagram. Does the Kansas game stick out on this schedule as the most important game for the Missouri Tigers this year? Because that Kansas game, from my position, has you going either 3-0 into your conference schedule against South Carolina, or has you going in at 2-1, shaping your overall destiny. Are you bowl eligible or not?
Yeah, they lose to Kansas, man. The wheels fall off of their season, and they don't go bowling this year. They will not be Kingpin.
They will not be Kingpin, and the smartest man in Missouri is Eli Drinkwitz' agent for getting him that extension prior to this season.
Now, look, I know that remember, hate's a strong word, so we're not going there. Dislove for Drinkwitz. I get it. Does this season look as good as it did last year? They're not a 9-3 team. They're not. Do I think that is he a good enough coach to rebound the following year? Yeah, I do. So I'm not going to beat up the Missouri Tigers this year. I just think it's one of your down years. You lost to Brady Cook. You lost some other depth within your program, and I think you're going to pay for it this year. How does that translate next year? I think you're fine. I do. I think you'll be pretty good next year. I'm not going to say you're a playoff team next year, but I think you'll be okay. I think you have to weather the storm. So
I agree with that. I think that if I'm and listen, I'll put my non-fandom hat aside for Drinkwitz right now. The guy's a good coach. You can't deny that. He's a great recruiter. I mean, look at what he's doing in Missouri. We joked earlier, but 38 wins and 24 losses over 5 seasons. Excuse me, as he enters into his 5th season here at Missouri. And this season hinges on a couple of games. And looking at this, I can see him winning as much as 8, but obviously as we forecasted, it could be 6 that he comes away with. It could be 5. Depending on how that Kansas game goes. This is just that year. The good thing is you've got that O-line. You lost a lot of those sharp, shiny objects with your quarterback, in your running back room, and your wide receiver room that put the big points on the board. But it starts with the O-line, so look for that to be your building block for next year.
That's right. But, again, this is just one of those setback years for the Missouri Tigers, in my opinion. And look, they may surprise us both or the world. Who knows? But I don't think so.
Maybe they'll end up with a Missouri painted water tower in Iraq.
Yes, could happen for sure. I don't know. Maybe in Moscow.
Missouri, Afghanistan.
That's right. That's it.